Check, 1, 2. Check. Microphone check. Microphone check. Check. Good to go. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me today on Surviving the System. This is Dancing Dave. Today, kind of in a continuing open diary of my life saga, kind of walking you all through exactly what's going on my end and how I'm dealing with it. I'm going to cover the latest updates. There's a lot to unpack with this last week. A lot. And it's going to be difficult. It's been difficult for me, and I'm sure it's going to be difficult for somebody else out there. We're going to be talking about suicide. So, for those of you who, have listened in the past, I have kids. And my oldest is 15. And I think we can all remember our teenage years and how everything feels like the end of the world and everything is just the most dramatic thing that's ever happened. It's the end-all be-all of life, and nothing is ever going to be the same after this. And unfortunately, my daughter, she is having difficulty coping, and she wound up being checked into the hospital, the psych ward, essentially, on suicide watch for the last week. We just got her out today. And I have her permission to talk about this because I think it's an extremely important topic to talk about. I don't think it gets talked about enough. It's almost like the dirty secret that we all try not to talk about, the elephant in the room that everyone tries to ignore. But the fact of the matter is, suicide has been an incredible problem in this country, and especially with the last year, with the lockdown and the stress that everyone's been under, especially children, the toll that all of this COVID-19 has taken on everyone. I don't even think we know what the full ramifications are. So with that in mind, please be aware that show's going to be probably a little difficult. It's going to be difficult for me, and it may be difficult for all of you, as I'm sure that this is something that has touched you all at one point in time or another. So we're gonna do our best to get through it. I don't have an outline prepared because I haven't had time, to be quite honest with you. It's been a whirlwind of a week. And this is yet another part of the system that I have never had the exposure to, and I'm learning a lot about it firsthand, and how this all kind of ties in. So it fits very well as a topic for the show, and again, I think it's extremely important to talk about, because I want everybody to know that, first of all, you're not alone in going through these types of struggles. More people out there than we will ever know are having these same challenges, these same thoughts. We just don't ever talk about them. And two, I want everybody out there to understand that that's things like this. This is why I've started this podcast. And that's why it's called Surviving the System. It really is about walking through the stories of people whose lives have been touched by the system in some aspect and the residual effects that are left over. Very rarely are they positive, as I don't believe that that's how the system wants you to be. I think they want you to be dependent on them, and in order for that to happen, you have to be broken. But more and more people are waking up and realizing that it doesn't have to be that way. And the more that we all talk about these things and just air it out there, sunlight is the greatest disinfectant. So we're going to talk about it. Now, before we get going on today's show, then, this one is, as I've said, I'm challenged. This is going to be difficult for me to get through. So we're going to make sure that we keep this vibration high. We have to make sure that we don't let this disempowering type of a subject, potentially disempowering type of a subject, drag us down. So we'll start with gratitude. And as always, I want to say thank you. I'm grateful that you're here, that you are allowing me to live out my purpose by being here and talking with you and reminding you of who you are. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here. I'm grateful for that opportunity. So, last week, my daughter decided she was dating someone new, which, whatever. I mean, again, we've all grown up. We've all been there. We know how these teenage years work. And 1 week, you're dead set that this is the person you're going to be with for the rest of your life. And the next week, you can't stand them and you hate them. And get away from me. It's just how it goes. So, my ex-wife reached out to me to let me know her concerns about this boy. He also has a history of challenges, and I don't have permission to tell his story, so I won't. Needless to say, he's not someone that she felt would be a very good influence on our daughter. And my take on it at the time, we didn't realize that things would escalate to this level at all. Like, it went from 0 to 60 in the blink of an eye. And my attitude was, okay, well, we're just going to have to watch it. I mean, there's nothing we can do. We can't forbid her from seeing him, because then that's just going to make her want to do it more. And so it was just a matter of trying to figure out exactly how we were going to deal with that. So my daughter asked if he could come over for dinner on Wednesday. And, okay. I'm a dad. First of all, if you're dating somebody, I would at least like to meet them. And second of all, let me get a feel for this kid myself and see what all the fuss is about. So we had him over, and it was uneventful. He was okay. It wasn't anything horrible. He's a good kid. He probably is struggling just like the rest of us. He just doesn't have the proper coping skills, coping mechanisms. And who am I to judge? My coping skills in the past have proven to be somewhat lacking, which is what ended me up in prison. So I'm not going to judge, and still, understanding where those lack of coping skills can lead. It's something I wanted to make sure that we were paying attention to. So the night was uneventful. We had dinner, played board games. He went home, and that was that. It was okay. I mean, their interaction was okay. They did all right. We'll just have to keep an eye on it in case it goes down the wrong path. And the next day, it went down the wrong path pretty damn quickly. So, my daughter's friends know this same person. They're all kind of running the same circles. And, well, apparently they understand. They don't think that he is going to be a good influence on her either. So they made him promise that he would not date my daughter. And he did. So they didn't like that. And they had a bit of a confrontation at school. And I mean, quite honestly, I don't blame them. I think they're being pretty good friends. They're saying, no, that person is wrong for you. You can't date him. We are not going to allow you to do that. As a parent, that I would have a difficult time making that call, because then she would resist and push back because parents just don't understand. And how could you possibly understand what I'm going through? We've all been there, so I get it. So kudos to her friends. And then apparently somebody else got word of it and began texting my daughter all kinds of horrible things. You can imagine a jilted ex-girlfriend. Hell hath no fury, right? And that just set her off. And one of her friends happened to be there and said, hey, what's going on? Heard what was going on and said, I don't like the way you're talking. Let's go. And took her to the counselor. So, I mean, again, kudos to all of her friends for doing their best to protect her. I can't fault them all at all for that. So I'm at work. I get a call from my ex telling me that she's going to pick her up from school, and they're checking her into the mental ward for a 72-hour observation. And we'll go from there. So that was late Thursday afternoon-ish. Friday, they finally got her a room, like late in the afternoon. So she basically was in the ER at this hospital until they could find her a place. Just under watch. They kept an eye on her. And then she got her room. And when she had a room, we were able to go visit her and check on her and make sure she was okay. And, my ex went up the first day. Well, my wife tried to go up and see her, but they wouldn't let her because COVID, God forbid. I don't understand that. And so then my ex went up and visited her, and I wound up going up on Saturday to check in on her. And she was doing really well. Very structured environment, no stress, no school, no parents, no social media, no nothing. She could just kind of hang out and read and relax. And boy, let me tell you what, the similarities between where she was at and prison were striking to me. It was very interesting how a 15-year-old child, well, this is a child and adolescent wing, so there were children in there as young as 9 that had, mental struggles. And it's almost like they were being prepared for the rest of their life being just like this. You know, and I found it striking that it's like the same patterns from when they're kids into teenagers to adults. Like the system is handling things in exactly the same way. And it's I guess very telling of how unoriginal the system is, which is why it results to primarily brute force and coercion to achieve its goals, because it can't stand on logic and reason. You know, no one could stand there and say to me, hey, if she's mentally struggling, how are some of these things helping? There's no rational explanation. The only explanation is, well, we're understaffed and this is what we have to do. Oh, okay, great. So kids are struggling, they're stressed out, so you're going to wake them up every 15 minutes in the middle of the night and make sure that they're alive. Okay. That's not going to affect their mental health at all. Or, you know, you're right, good point. Oh, sure, you do you, I guess. And then what really caught me was how much she was enjoying it. Not that I don't blame her, because I remember, you know, when I first went in, my first few days, I mean, I was mentally just destroyed. So my first few days there were rough. But after I regained my footing, I remember just kind of looking around going, well, this isn't too bad. Like, just a bunch of people hanging out, reading some books and playing some games and watch some TV now and then you go back into your room and you hang around and you talk and you read some books and listen to the radio. And, you know, there were parts of it where it was like, oh man, I don't have to worry about work. I don't have to worry about bills. I don't have to worry about anybody's expectations of me. This is kind of nice. I can handle this. And then after a couple of days, the reality sets in and you start to have the restrictions put on you, and it's not quite so fun. So I remembered. And that helped a lot, because then I understood the process. So I was able to come home and say, look, here's how it's going to go. She's going to enjoy it for a couple of days because it's nice. She doesn't have to do anything. There's no responsibilities. But then they're going to start putting restrictions on her, and it's not going to be so fun anymore, and she's going to hate it, and she's going to want to come home. And, I mean, sure enough, that's exactly what happened. So Monday and Tuesday were a big unknown for us. I mean, neither of us have had to deal with this before, so we didn't know what to expect. So a lot of phone calls, a lot of, well, what do we do now? A lot of just kind of guessing, a lot of trying to reach out to as many people as we could who maybe understood. I mean, I reached out to my coaches and just said, I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, it was just confusing. And then we wound up doing a family therapy call where we all kind of got together and listened to the doctor try to talk to my daughter about, you know, what it is that brought you here, and, well, how can we do things differently next time? And it was, well, it was just a lot of, you know, my daughter not being comfortable talking about anything. So it was a lot of I don't knows, and I'm not going to talk about that. And, you know, the doctor was very carefully trying to explain, well, that's not an option. You can't not talk about it, especially here. We have to give you some kind of coping skills. You're going to have to deal with this separately, or the next time it ever happens, if it does, we have to have a plan in place. What's that plan going to look like? I don't know. I'm not going to talk about it. Well, that's not going to work. And then they started imposing the restrictions. And it was, taking away social time, giving her packets of homework that she had to complete. I think it was, from what I could gather, it was okay. It was okay. It was a lot of self-reflection and trying to guide them through that process and try to understand why they react the way that they do, or where these thoughts come from, and how you can change things so that they don't happen again in the future. I don't know too much because I wasn't doing all of it. I just know the little bit that I heard, and it seemed decent, And so we were told yesterday, okay, sounds like tomorrow's going to be the day. Here's what we're working on until that point. And then, here's what we kind of recommend as a plan going forward. So that's where we're at now. I picked her up. We're home. We're here. Now we're going to have more meetings and more talking and try to figure out what the hell is going on, because we don't know. So that's where we're at. And well, there is nothing like a big, in-your-face, life-altering crisis to make you think about where you're at and how you got there and what you need to do differently. And it was very difficult because, as a parent, you watch your child go through this, and it's difficult not to go down the rabbit hole of, this is all my fault. Because you see those parts of yourself in your child, and you think, oh, holy crap, I gave them that part of me. Oh my God, they're doomed. And that's not always the case, but as a parent, it's difficult not to go down that path. And struggling with all of that, and then sitting down and saying, okay, you know what? How do I now make sure that this doesn't happen to the other kids? What do I need to do differently? How can I help to do this without putting all of the blame, on myself? It was still a matter of, okay, I have to take responsibility for my part in this. Obviously, I've missed something or not done enough of something along the way. What can I do? And I noticed that with everything that's been going on and all of the challenges, especially this last year, I have been soldiering on and just pushing forward through all of it. And most times, and especially in Western culture, we think that that's a positive trait to have. Especially in corporate America. Oh man, just get in there and put your head down and do your work and make it happen and just get it done. And that's the attitude I've had. And it's very forceful at times. And I didn't realize how forceful until all of this forced me to sit back and reflect. Interesting word choice I just had there. I didn't even think about that. Saturday evening when we were here, I was trying to give the kids a bath, and the two little ones it's the end of the world if you get water in their eyes. They don't understand. It's just water. They don't understand that. They freak out and think the world is ending and scream bloody murder, and that was really frustrating for me. And I wound up snapping at them, which of course didn't help, and then they cried even more, and I felt horrible. And that was really what started me to sit down and say, okay, something's not right. I shouldn't be acting like this. What is going on? And just too much force. And I think that that's something that's extremely prevalent in our society nowadays. We just get so caught up in go, 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 make it happen, make it happen, make it happen. And that can very easily translate into, the charging rhino type of a mentality, where when a rhinoceros puts its head down and starts charging, nothing stops him, and anything that gets in his way is just knocked over. So that's not always a good thing when you're talking about people and emotions and psychological issues. You don't want to be the charging rhino through someone's emotions. So Sunday was my breakdown day as I realized this about myself. And kind of the relief that I felt as I let that go. Just understanding that we don't have to force everything to happen. And there's a book, I know I've talked about it before, it's called Power versus Force. And I use it in sales quite a bit, where the basic premise is, instead of trying to force a customer to buy something from you by using, deceptive sales techniques or closing tactics, closing techniques, different closing phrases to try to trick them and catch them into, well, you told me earlier that you wanted to blah, blah, blah. That's the part of sales that I could never do. So I've worked very hard to not be that type of a salesman and create more of a powerful experience for your customer. So at the end of it, your customer wants to say yes before you even ask them, because you have just created such an experience for them, and they know, you know what, this person listened to me, this person understood, this person hears me, I want to work with them. I don't even know what the price is, and I don't care. I'm going to work with them. That's the difference between the two. And that was, as much as I have worked to apply that in my coaching practice and my day job, I missed that part about applying it in my life with my family. And that's okay. I recognize that now, and I can work on it. Recognition is the first law of learning and transformation. If you don't realize and recognize that something is wrong, you're never going to fix it. So, okay, I realize this now. I can start to fix it. And I have help to be able to do so. I mean, I reached out to my coaches and immediately was like, here's what's going on. I should not be acting like this. I know it's wrong. I recognize this. Help me figure out how to get back on track. So there was that part. Very emotionally, it was taxing, but at the same time, it was, okay, I'm not going to just let this completely derail me. how can I do better? How can we come back stronger from this? So that's my plan. And it's still going to take a lot of work. I have plenty to do on that. But then the deeper topic of really thinking about this, and this really got me thinking, and this, I'm almost going to go more on a rant here. I'm kind of preparing myself for it, and I'm preparing you for it too, just so you kind of know we're going to pick up some steam here. But when we were having our family counseling call, I remember the doctor asking my daughter, well, how long ago, did some of these feelings and thoughts start? A year ago. And she said, oh, okay, well, what changed a year ago? I mean, other than COVID. And I thought, what do you mean other than, why couldn't it just be COVID? And even my daughter was like, nothing. I mean, outside of COVID changed everything. School, her social interaction with her friends, her dance class. I mean, everything. The stress that has been added onto it. Yeah, all of this started at COVID. And I've been reading the news articles, listening to different podcasts and listening to different people talk about how, the stress that this is putting on children. And there's my cat, for those of you watching the video. And thanks, Volt. And I've seen it. My 7-year-old is having difficulty with homeschooling because she misses school. She misses being around friends. She misses recess. She misses being able to do that kind of stuff. Okay, I get that. We kind of just said, well, we'll do what we can come this next school year. We're going to keep trying, and we were changing and adapting, and it's been getting better. We've been finding homeschooling groups around for her to play with and, getting her as much interaction as we could. But yeah, it was difficult for her. And I guess I never made the correlation that all of this started with my older daughter when the lockdown started. So now, this isn't just some news story that I'm reading about or some podcast that I'm listening to. This is my real life experience, and I can attest to the fact, you know what? Yeah, this COVID lockdown bullshit is no joke. It's destroying lives. And I don't want to take anything away from those who have maybe had COVID and maybe have some health effects from it, or maybe have lost someone from it. We can argue about the statistics and all of that another time. I don't doubt that it's real. I think the statistics have been doctored, but that doesn't change the fact that it's real and people have suffered from it. But at what cost, then, have we instituted these lockdowns to, quote-unquote, protect the population? Is anybody measuring the cost of the mental tax that this is taking on people? Or the long-term psychological and physiological effects of stress on the body and the mind? Nobody's checking on that. Everybody just gets so focused on the next stimulus check. And when I say everybody, I'm talking now politicians. Politicians and those in power. Stimulus check will fix everything. Here's $1,400. Thanks, I guess. We got our stimulus check and we're using it. And I don't feel guilty about that one bit because that was my money that I put in through taxes anyway. They're just giving me my money back. So we're using it to pay debt off and take care of ourselves, make sure we can stay afloat, make sure we're doing the right things, make sure we're making the right moves financially to keep going through all this. But money is not going to fix everything. Money does not fix everything. We have pushed an entire generation to the breaking point where situations like this are commonplace. My daughter was telling me when she was in there, she knew half the kids that were on her unit because she goes to school with them. All of her friends, this has happened to. Most people she knows that she goes to school with have had this same thing happen to them. To them, it's life. Like a rite of passage. Oh, you haven't lived until... And then I stop and I think about one of the doctors that was visiting with her tried to tell us that she has OCD, which she doesn't. No. The symptoms that he was describing, the things that he was saying, well, here's why I'm worried about it. It's like, no, that's not accurate. So she's seeing a psychiatrist and she's on some medication, which I don't agree with the medication. Sometimes it's useful. And we had this talk with her when she started it, where I had to go on medication at one point, and the medication was just to get my feet underneath me. Once my feet were underneath me, I worked to get off the medication. Short term, get me through this, get me back on my feet. Okay, thank you, I don't need you anymore. Goodbye. We had that, what we thought was an understanding, but now she doesn't seem to want to get off of them. And I can't quite tell where her responsibility in that ends and where the medical field and the medical system and their responsibility begins. Because I had to take my daughter to the ER last week on Tuesday before all this happened, because she was having some type of a mental tic. It was a physical tic, but it was, a mental reaction. And the psychiatrist that we visited with while in the ER basically said that he thought that it was a side effect of the medication that she was on, and he recommended something else. Reduce this medication, I say go on this one. Okay. Okay, another medication, all right. And then 3 days later, then she's in at this other hospital, and another doctor gets a hold of her and says, oh, she has OCD. Well, I'm going to recommend now that she get on this medication to help with that. Okay, so now we've moved from the point of, hey, let's use this medication to get your feet underneath you and get moving again, to the medical industry now saying, oh, well, you've got more problems. Well, here's some more medication then. And risking the side effects of those medications, which the doctors full well know of. This doctor that we talked about, one of the medications discussed was Lexapro, and very well known apparently. I think it's for ADHD and or anxiety. I don't remember exactly. And he was mentioning that there were studies that were done on the effect that Lexapro has on word loss and word recall in people. And that they noticed that the long-term effects of Lexapro, people would begin to forget certain words. And a stutter would come along with it when they would try to say that word. Something in their brain, the wiring just wouldn't fire correctly when they would try to say a particular word or sentence. And I was amazed, first of all, to be like, well, now hold on a minute. So we know, you're telling me that there are published studies that this is well known, and this medication is still out there and being prescribed to people, to children whose bodies are still developing. Their body chemistry isn't even fully developed yet. They're in puberty. Do you realize that adolescence doesn't end until age 25? Like, our bodies are still growing and developing until the age of 25. So she's 15, just over halfway there. And we're going to start messing with her body chemistry, her brain chemistry. And now you're telling me that, oh yeah, this looks like the typical side effects of the Lexapro, memory loss and word loss. Like, well, then why in God's name is she on this? And now we got another doctor throwing his hand in the mix. They're wanting to throw something else on top of that. When will we as a society wake up and realize that this system is not designed to help? The medical system in particular does not make money on you being healthy and well. So when you go see a doctor, they're trained to find something wrong with you. And when you go see multiple doctors, they're all going to have a different opinion of what's wrong with you, and they're all going to throw their hat in the ring. Until at the end of the day, you walk out of there thinking, everything is wrong with me. Holy crap, is there anything even right with me? I need all of these meds because I'm broken. You know, I talk on this show a lot about the developmental years of birth to 13. And you know, right after that 13, it's right in between that 13 and 14, that's when all of this started happening with COVID and the doctors and the therapy and the medications. And I just think, okay, so this is what it's like when the system tries to take you and program you and get you hooked from a young age. This is why the pharmaceutical industry spends so much money advertising their meds and over-medicating people who probably don't need all of this. You know, if I was to come to you and say, oh, you're having some struggles, okay, well, look, here's what we're going to have to do. You're going to have to change parts of your life. You're going to have to cut out some things that probably aren't helping you. You're going to need to stay away from social media as much. You're probably going to want to limit your time on your cell phone. I would recommend not watching much TV, if at all. You know, some is okay. There's benefits on it. Just be really careful what you watch. What are you eating? Are you eating a lot of junk food? Look, you need to be eating a lot of green leafy vegetables, a lot of healthy fats, No sugars, stay away from the carbs as much as you can. Like, I know a peanut butter and jelly sandwich sounds fantastic. Let's stay away from that for a bit. Not too healthy for you. Here's a salad. Try that. What do you do for stress? You know, like when you get stressed out, what do you do? Do you normally drink? Do you smoke? Do you listen to loud music? Okay, what I'm going to need you to do is you're going to need to set aside probably 20 to 30 minutes a day, and you're going to need to do some meditation. And then we're going to need to set aside probably at least another 30 minutes outside of your day, and you're going to need to do some exercise. You know, some strenuous exercise, yoga. There's a lot of different things that you can do. We're going to need to do all of these things, and they're going to help. It's going to take a bit of time. It's not going to be overnight, and it's going to be difficult. This is a lot of changes, and some of them are going to be challenging to learn how to do properly, but this is what you're going to need to help. So that's option one. Or if I came to you and said option two, oh, you're having challenges? Okay, take this pill. Well, option B sounds a hell of a lot simpler than option A. See, man, I can just take that pill. Can I still watch the TV? Yup. Okay, cool. Can I still eat ice cream and candy? Yeah. Oh, all right, cool. Like, do I have to exercise or meditate? I mean, they're beneficial for you, but no. This pill will help balance out those chemicals and balance out the hormones in your brain. Oh, perfect. Cool. Give me the pill. And then I remembered watching friends of mine almost be used as guinea pigs when I was inside. I remember one friend of mine, and I mean, we would joke about it because there comes a point where there's nothing else that you can do but laugh about it, where he would just be like, yep, well, they're putting me on a new medication because they can't figure out what's wrong with me. And I remember one day he would game with us. We'd play Pathfinder. And he is the kind of guy, he recently came over for dinner not long ago. In a few weeks, my wife got to meet him. And after he left, she was like, holy crap, he talks a lot. Yes, he does. He can be a lot to handle. I am okay with him. Other people had a difficult time. He's one of those people that so high energy all the time, almost at a manic level sometimes. Like eventually you're like, dude, I need a break from you. Fortunately, I'm okay with him. I didn't have to worry about that. So didn't have that challenge. Nice guy. He came over for dinner. But I remember one day we were out at the gaming table and he was just so quiet. He wasn't saying anything. And I just remember going, dude, you okay, man? You are not acting yourself. And he's like, yeah, man, I feel fine. Why? You don't seem right. Did they change your meds or something? I said, yeah. Oh, all right. Well, that explains it. Yeah, whatever they have you on, you need to tell them to get you off, dude. That's not working. Like, you are not you. And, you know, a couple days later, he was back to himself because they changed the meds. These medications are no joke. Like, they have the power to completely alter your body chemistry to the point that you can wake up the next day and your own family and friends won't recognize you because you're just not you. You're like, what are you doing? Who are you? I remember another friend of mine, he was getting ready to get out. And he was so nervous about getting out because he said, Dave, they've got me on so many different meds. It's like they only give me a 30-day supply. Once that's out, I'm cold turkey, man. I don't know how that's going to go. And he was on a lot of meds for the same thing. Like, he would come in one day and he couldn't keep his eyes open. And he'd be like, yeah, they got me on some new med. I hate this thing. And then he'd come in the next day and be like all kinds of upbeat and chipper and happy. He's like, oh, I love this new med. This is great. But they just constantly tweaked it and played with it and changed it. Well, let's try this one now and see what this does. There comes a point when your body forgets how to be you. You mess with the body chemistry long enough and it just forgets what baseline is. It doesn't know how to produce these hormones and these chemicals without some type of assistance. So when you take someone who's been on these meds for years and his body is physically dependent on them, and then he goes cold turkey, what do you think's going to happen? And in his particular case, he went back to self-medicating. And now he's back inside and he's in prison again. And I hope he's getting better, you know, because now he's going to be back in and he's going to be getting on the meds and they're going to balance him out and he's going to be okay while he's there. And then I think about my friend Bo. I met Bo when I first was at D&E. Really quiet. He didn't say much of anything. He just was very, I don't know, reclusive, I guess. That's not the right word for it, but that's the only word I can think of right now. He wasn't very social. He didn't like to hang out with everybody, but he always was smiling, and he would at least come out and interact with people. Just wasn't very conversational. And then I was there for 6 weeks, didn't see him again for months, and then he turned up at OCC after I was there. And I remembered him. It was Bo. Didn't see again, and you know, as you go through this journey, you remember faces. And he remembered me, I remembered him. We said hi, how you doing? And he seemed to be doing a little bit better, you know, and that was good. I mean, I went through that transition too. It took me a few months of going through my own personal mental hell to come back out of it better on the other end, mentally stronger and ready to go. So I was a different person from the time that I left, from the time that I went in there. And I could see that same transition with him. But, you know, he was on medication too. I don't know if he got off of it or not. And then we reconnected through volunteer organization Rise out here in town. Yeah, we saw him at an event, and of course I remembered him, and he came up and said hi and introduced him to my wife, and he saw the kids, and we talked for a bit, and, you know, he said, hey, I have an idea for like a program house. I'd love to sit down and talk with you about it sometime, because I have the nonprofit to provide housing for people transitioning back into the community. And yeah, of course, we sat down and we had coffee and we talked about it and his idea. And, you know, his was very specific for people that had like drug and alcohol abuse, real specific for a program house and how he wanted to do it a little differently. And that was not my expertise, so I listened and I tried to help kind of guide him. Try talking to this person and maybe think about this. He was all kinds of fired up about it. He had just picked up a second job so that he could start socking away money so that he could start financing this venture. He was going to purchase a house, and he had the long-term plan. He was all set and ready to go. And then a few months later, he hung himself. He just lost hope, I guess. Like, none of us really know. But that's just so sad to me that all of these different facets of the system, that's where it's funneling you to. Be it the legal system, the prison system, the financial system, the medical system. Keep you hooked, get as much money from you as you can, and then discard you when they're done and move on to the next. That's sad, but that's what it is. And it doesn't have to be. But that's what this system is designed to do. Chew you up and spit you out on the other side. Good luck putting yourself back together again. So where do we go from here? I don't know. I'm learning this right along with all of you as I'm telling the story. You know, I can tell you this. I can only change what I can change. I can't make my daughter want to get better. I can help guide her through this process. I can show her a lot of the tools that I have and that I've learned to overcome these mental challenges. I can introduce her to people who can help guide her through it as well and give her the tools that I don't have or don't know about, or maybe just a different perspective that might connect with her better. But if she doesn't want the help, there's not much I can do. Then believe me, that feeling sucks. It sucks so bad. But there's no point in lying to myself and being delusional about it. So what I can do about it is to work on myself and to create such a powerful experience for her, showing her what it can be like on the other end of the system. Getting out of the vicious cycle. Connecting in with a community that supports you and pushes you to grow and to be better. Freeing your mind from all of this BS about having to be upset, having your self-esteem and your self-worth be tied into who your boyfriend is or who your friends are, or what car you drive, or what phone you have, or how many likes you have on social media. It doesn't have to be that way. So I'm going to create that experience to show her a better way, a different way, and to remind her that you are an incredibly powerful, creative being. You have the ability to manifest whatever it is that you want in your life. Whatever you want to do, whatever you want to be, you can do it. So stop listening to everybody else. Stop listening to your friends at school. Stop listening to some dude you call your boyfriend. Shoot, stop listening to me. Deep down inside of you somewhere, you know who you are. You know what you're supposed to do. Now let's start unpacking that bullshit in the way so you can get back to that. That's it. Do what I can do. I will, of course, keep everyone updated. Thank you all for listening. I hope that this has provided some form of value to someone. Again, I know there's a lot of people that are going through this. A lot of people that are going through this right now. Always going through this, especially with COVID. Kids. So if I can be of any assistance, even just to listen, feel free to reach out. I can be reached at survivingthesystem.org. I have a contact us page down there at the bottom, as well as an archive of all of the past episodes. You can catch me on Twitter at STS the Podcast. Facebook at facebook.com/survivingthesystem. I am on YouTube and Odyssey as well. Just search for Surviving the System. I'm on there. You get the raw, unedited footage, the video footage, the before and after Joe gets a hold of it and cleans it up and makes it sound awesome. So thank you all again for listening. I appreciate your time. Remember, keep your head up. Don't let them get you.